I'm Todd Hummel.
And I'm Jeanette Hummel.
From JourneyTheEarth.com. Today we will be talking with Blanche Garcia, lead architect and designer for Hotel Impossible. Hope you guys enjoy.
So we'll go ahead and jump right in then.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, let me know what you want to know.
Okay, so I would imagine that you've done quite a bit of traveling in your career.
Yes.
And a lot of our viewers and readers love beachside retreats because they're so relaxing and rejuvenating. And I wanted to find out from you what your favorite beachside resort is that you've stayed at.
Actually, we've done quite a bit of different beachside resorts, and I've stayed at quite a few. Of course, you know, one of my favorite places in general is Hawaii. So I really, really love the Four Seasons in Maui. Is one of my favorites. It's not only the amenities and the service, but I really love the energy and the ambiance. So in my next life, I definitely want to go back to Hawaii because we shot out there and I just fell in love with it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place. My grandparents have a condo on Maui, so I grew up visiting there every year, and that's always been one of my favorite properties. It's just a dream resort.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous, and it's one of my favorite, and I love it.
Awesome. Now, what are some easy, inexpensive design solutions people can do at home to kind of make their home feel more like a beachside retreat?
You know, it's always going above and beyond what you think you're comfortable with at home. So it's making sure that you have nice, crisp, white bed linens, that the thread count is high enough, lots of layering, throws that are really nicely placed, you know, making sure things are kept tidy. I know it sounds odd, but keeping things tidy and simple and not cluttered go a long way with scented candles. It really sets the mood. I've seen people that have barely nothing in their apartment with one candle and everything's clean and you have some throws like really nicely placed and you really feel like you've gone above and beyond. You know, I like to even make sure there's bath salts in the bathrooms. The tissues are displayed nicely, you know, take them out of the box, maybe put them in a holder in the bathroom or in the living room. You know, even when you're having tea or coffee, make sure that your china is really nice. And also, you know, I really like just going a little bit above. So if you have things like, you know, water out, maybe putting it with lemon peels and stuff in a glass container. You know, it's hard because when you're home, you're like, oh, I don't want to use my best stuff. But, you know, when else are you going to use it? So you want to make sure that, you know, you're using your glassware and it's not like in plexi cups.
Right.
You know, and that's normal. You don't want to wash the dishes. You don't want to use your best throws. You don't want to do this. So everything kind of looks kind of ratty and it looks like you're at a, you know, like a frat house and then you haven't cleaned, you have stuff all over the place. Before I go to bed every night, I make sure that my living room or wherever I was is nice and tidy so that in the morning and I come downstairs, it smells nice, it feels nice. I mean, it sounds weird, but those are little things that go a long way.
Speaking of scents, a lot of hotels that I've stayed at do such a wonderful job of creating a unique scent that is specific to their hotel. And it really kind of sets the mood for the vacation. And what are some of your tips to incorporate scents into your home to make it feel like a relaxing retreat?
Well, when they're doing, when they have scents at different hotels, they're definitely tying it into relaxation, but also the local area. So the same scent that you would have in Hawaii, you would not have like in, you know, Colorado. So I love the smell. I do a lot of meditation and those type of things. So for me, when I get home, it's always something that's either like sandalwood or lavender, or even if I go floral, it's more like gardenia. I think those are scents for me that feel comfortable. I like incense because for me, when like if you burn a candle and it burns out, maybe a couple of days it goes away. My incense, it literally permeates the fabrics. So I feel like even a week later, my house retains that scent, and it's something that I feels like very homey to me.
Awesome. Okay, great. Now, I know that you've worked on so many different designs for Hotel Impossible, and we're always so impressed with what you do. You just manage to create the most beautiful spaces in short amounts of time. So, on that note, what room has been your favorite that you've designed for the show?
There are a few. It's really strange. My first one on the show that we did in Miami for the Penguin was one of my favorites. Design-wise, it had a little bit of an Art Deco flair, and it's one of my favorite genres for design. So because of that, I really loved it, and it was very bold. I loved in Greece, La Toro, by Mount Olympus was one of my favorites as well. And the Leger Hotel in California, just because of the amount that went into it and the transformation. I think those would probably be my top three.
Awesome. And I know on this show you guys are always working on a bit of a time crunch.
Yes.
What is the largest renovation you've done in the shortest amount of time?
I would probably say the Leger Hotel in California. We did a lot of structural work that normally we don't do, and I had about 150 volunteers working under me. We had, a volunteer engineer from the town. We had to get permits that pushed through. The lobby alone, we had to create an opening for a register, and we had to cut through I'd say about 3 feet of stone, like original stone from when it was built, to get that hole in the wall. And that took up until the very last hour of reveal. New carpeting. We had artists come in that volunteered to do a mural. And there was literally in that room alone, probably about 50 or 60 painters, almost like a paint by numbers. And then the basement on top of that was an old jailhouse. We turned that into kind of a wine cellar, event space, but that had to be all cleared out. The wiring had to be fixed on that. The flooring, new concrete floor that we had to excavate the floor about 2 feet down to get that floor level. So it was a major, major renovation that honestly, we should have never even attempted. But it was done. It was done well. It was beautiful. Everybody volunteered. We couldn't have done it without the whole town on board. No way. And it was just a lot of moving parts. So I would probably say that was the largest renovation we've ever done.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Now, we absolutely love Anthony on this show. We're so impressed with everything that he does for each of the properties that he works at. And I know he expects a lot from his designers, too.
100%.
Does he always expect you to complete all of the requests that he asks?
No, not at all. Anthony does not expect you to complete them, but he expects you to try. Mm-hmm. And if you don't try, he would like a reason why, which is the same as anybody would have. He puts high expectations on what he wants to give to the hotel, make sure it's the right thing. So from a renovation standpoint, I would never renovate anything I couldn't complete well, or didn't make sense for the hotel, regardless if it's for TV or not. You have to make sure it looks good on TV, but I've never made a selection based solely because it was on TV. And so anything that I do, it's not like once we leave, it falls apart or we take it with us. It has to stay there. So the wear and tear has to be there, hold up against things. And Anthony doesn't always agree with everything that happens, but he does appreciate and acknowledge the fact that it's the right thing for the hotel, more so than whether he agrees with it.
Now, if you could travel anywhere in the world and design your dream hotel, where would you go?
I would probably say Monte Carlo. It's
great choice.
It's very me.
And what makes you say that? Why would you choose that destination?
I think it's a beautiful location visually. I think it's got a sense of elegance and panache to it that is just like you're laid back in a way. It's not like you're in in Paris and you're not so stuffy. So it's got this really beautiful coastal feel to it, but it's also just really elegant. You literally could show up in a cocktail dress for brunch or you could show up in sandals and like, you know, a large hat for dinner. And either would be great, but it's just got this really great sense of history and architecture and just beautiful surroundings and just this elegant old Hollywood style mixed in. And I'm a sucker for race cars, so.
That's awesome. It sounds like my kind of place too.
Yeah, exactly. A little yachting, a little race cars.
Right. Now, speaking of travel, what's been your most nerve-wracking travel experience so far?
You know, it was really tough. We did a hotel in California, I believe. It was the Grand Lake hotel, and it's the one where we did the bed race, and I was wearing the moose hat.
Uh-huh.
That one was kind of crazy because the only way in and out of that area was a ski and snowmobile town, was through this really large, steep mountain. And when I went to go first visit the place, it was like 2 weeks before the show. I go and scout to the location, honestly. And when I went, my plane landed at night. It was sleeting snow, and I had to drive over that mountain. And it was probably the scariest drive I've ever made in my life. And my brakes at certain points did not work. Oh. And there was no guardrail. And when I got through the mountain to the other side and I reached the hotel, they were like, "Oh, you made it." They're like, "That's great." They're like, it's kind of like a rite of passage when people try to go through that mountain while it's snowing because it's so treacherous. And I was like, oh my God. And there were moments during that drive that I was just like, you know, cause you have to take a plane. It's like 9 hours. Then you take the drive. And it was that was probably the craziest for me. And you're in a very remote town that maybe had 3 restaurants and, you know, a local bar. And it's just very out there.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you made it through that and made it back home safely.
So was my mother. My mother was like, "Oh my God, I just feel what'd you do?" So.
Now, what's been your most memorable travel experience? Something that you'll never forget for the rest of your life?
You know, to be honest with you, even though I want to say I backpacked when I was 21 through Italy for a month, and that was really interesting. But oddly enough, I don't think I'm ever going to forget Greece. I really fell in love with it there. I love the energy there. Athens was really beautiful to me, Mount Olympus, and it was kind of like I had been there before experience, and I felt very at home. And I would probably say that Greece is one of those places I'll never ever forget, just because for me it really touched me.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely on my bucket list too, and I hope to see that for myself someday soon.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Now, a question from one of our readers. She wants to know, traveling Navy wife wants to know, how can I buy linens, quality linens, without spending a small fortune?
By us, and I don't know if she has it by her, my first option would say like a Home Goods or a Target or TJ Maxx. More like a TJ Maxx and a Home Goods because they get the overage from other companies. If you don't have one of those places by wherever anybody lives, I would suggest online. I do 80% of my shopping, not only for design on the show, but for clients online. And don't be afraid of those. As long as you see that there are comments, people are commenting. I always look for a phone number. If there's a number that I can actually talk to somebody, that's really important. Going through a PayPal account, if there's nothing set up that you can pay online. But I do a lot of purchasing online, and I just think it's the best resource because these are literally warehouses that they don't have to pay for brick and mortar space. So they're giving you the price of these items at a fraction of the cost, where somebody else, you know, maybe a Bloomingdale's would have to literally upcharge it so many times. So online, you can't go wrong. I shop there probably about 90% of my time.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of your favorite online retailers that you would recommend shopping from?
I always hit Overstock.com, Wayfair.com, Amazon.com. I would and Etsy.com. I'd probably say those are my go-tos. ZGallery.com. I love Wayfair and Overstock for the simple fact they tell you if it's in stock, how long it'll get to you. So we're always in a time crunch. So I want to know if I order it today, will I get it by Thursday? That's really important to me. Amazon, because it's different places that they pull from, you're not always sure and you can't always connect with the seller. So sometimes you'll buy, let's say, towels online on Amazon, but they're coming from a third party. So you can't call them and say, well, is that size this, or what's the level of this, or how long is it going to take to ship? So that's my only problem with Amazon, but I do love buying from there. And Z Gallery just has like really beautiful, glamorous type stuff that you can get really inexpensively. I love their sale racks at the end of their website. And Etsy is just one of a kind. And what I love about that, and you see in the last show that we did in Alaska, I found the artist who did all of the she did all of the shadow art for the hotel, and the Alaskan hotel was on Etsy, and she customized it. And there are these people that really do beautiful work, and they're one of a kind, and they're at a fraction of the cost. And so if you want something a little different and you want to mix it into all of your store-bought finds so it makes your home interesting, I would say that like toggle between those sites.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Unique things for the home. And we always try to collect, too, when we go on our travels, one unique art piece or something for the home from everywhere that we visit so we can.
And and I definitely recommend when you're traveling to pick up things that you're going to use. I always pick up something, but I do not pick up things with the names on it. Like I'm not like St. Bart's, like a t-shirt. I feel like you're never going to really use that. But I love picking up things like whether it's shells or, I was just in Sicily and I picked up a compass, like an old antique compass that I put on my table. So things that I know that were from there that I'll always remember.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. I love it. Well, I think that pretty much covers everything from our end. If there's something else that you would like to share that you think our readers might be interested in.
No, I think that, if they take one thing away, it's to make their home uniquely theirs, but always try to step outside and look at it from an outside perspective. When you live in a space, you get used to anything. So you get used to the clutter piled up in the corner of your paperwork, the shoes by the door. So it's so simple. You think you have to make these large changes, but if you can look at your space and say, well, if I was coming here for the first time, what would I pick up on? You would see it through different eyes, and you would understand that, oh wow, that maybe that doesn't look so good. And those little refreshers and just fixer-uppers can go a long way.
That's great advice, and definitely something I'm going to take to heart and work on in my own home too. So
we all do. We do the same thing, same hairstyle, same this. You have to switch it up sometimes.
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it.
Okay, have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Okay, bye.